Hello, thanks for clicking. I'm Mark Morse. Well, you've all heard about it by now. MGK Boston's stupendous push to 1 trillion subscribers. That's right, 1 trillion. The amazing thing, folks, is he's pretty close. Maybe 7 or 8 away. I think we can put him over the top. So I'm going to participate in this contest. It's 10 questions. By the way, if you have somebody with you in the video, you'll get 2 entries. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody with me. I promised my daughter I would no longer make her YouTube fodder, and my niece is working now, and not even my dog is really willing to be seen with me these days. So just 1 entry for me. But let's jump right into these questions. There's 10 of them, as I said before, and this is a good little way to get to know your fellow VCers. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, had a little problem backstage there. Let's jump right into this. 10 questions, a great way to get to know your fellow VCers. First prompt, vacation. Where do you like to go? If you haven't been there, where would you go? So I don't go on vacation much. I'm not a big traveler, but there is one place I've always wanted to go, and that is I would love to go to England. I would just like to visit England, visit Liverpool, home of the Beatles, London, and the surrounding areas. I just think that would be interesting. And maybe 2, name a solo artist everyone seems to love, but you can't stand. There's very few solo artists that I would say I can't stand. But I wanted to think of somebody that a lot of people like, but I'm just not that into. And this is kind of true confessions of Mark Morse, and I imagine I'll lose about 50 subscribers. But the one artist that everybody seems to enjoy, that I can only take in small doses, is Bob Marley. Seems like a nice guy. Have nothing against his lifestyle. In fact, I assume people would think that I would be really into Bob Marley music, but I can only take it in small doses. There are some songs that I really love. Redemption Song, for example, I love that song, but I don't have any Bob Marley in my vinyl collection anyway. I think I have a greatest hits or something on CD, but Bob Marley and just about any reggae, I can only take in small doses. The second one, just about as damning. Name a band that everyone seems to love, but you can't stand. So similarly, like the solo artist, a band that it's not that I can't stand them, I just don't appreciate them like other people I know. Van Halen. Van Halen, I don't really have anything against Van Halen, but I've just never really enjoyed their music. I'd never owned an album. I've never even owned a CD of Van Halen. Show a jazz album. Well, I'm probably about the most lowbrow vinyl community member out there. I don't have very many jazz albums or anything that can really be considered jazz. I do have some Miles Davis on CD, but I came up with Tom Waits' Small Change. Very jazz influenced. I don't know if you'd call this a straight jazz album, but very definitely a lot of jazz overtones. I love this cover. I know MGK Boston is not a fan of Tom Waits. In fact, this is the person he mentioned as the one person everybody likes that he cannot stand. So sorry about that, Mike. But I really do enjoy Tom Waits. I love this album. Supposedly that's Cassandra Peterson, the woman known as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark back there. That's never been confirmed though. Show a country and western album. Well, this I might get some points back from Mike because he showed a Waylon Jennings album. I'm going to show Waylon and Willie WW2. This is a record I got from my good friend David from Garage Geek. And I love Waylon. And Willie's okay. And so I thought I would show this album. A lot of cover songs. I don't think there's very many original songs on here. Write Your Own Songs, I think, was written by Willie Nelson, but I think the rest are written by other people. They actually do a version of Sitting by the Dock of the Bay, the old Otis Redding song on here. But this is my country album, WW2, Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. Who is your favorite sports team or athlete of all time? Again, I'm losing points with my friend Mike. He's never going to invite me to one of his big East Coast parties after this video. But I do appreciate Mike, and I love his taste in music. But I don't like sports. I've never been interested in sports. I've never followed a team. I've never had a favorite team. One thing, though, I've always been intrigued with boxing. When I was growing up, my hero was Muhammad Ali. So I would say Muhammad Ali is my favorite athlete. He always has been. Young Cassius Clay turning into Muhammad Ali, just an epic moment in sports history. And what an intelligent young man. Just this outspoken black man coming out, spitting the truth, just turning the tables on everyone. I just loved him, and even today, when I look back on that old footage, I'm like, man, Muhammad Ali was cool. Just a cool guy, and really, truly the greatest. Share a concert memory. So, I don't go to a lot of concerts, but I have been to a few. And I wanted to tell about the time in the 1980s I went to see the Grateful Dead and Bob Dylan play in the Metrodome in Minneapolis. And I believe it was the first concert they ever had in the Metrodome. And little did they know, the acoustics were terrible. There's way too much echo, reverb. It was just, I couldn't really tell, the Bob Dylan songs at least, it was really hard to tell which song he was even doing. It sounded so terrible. But the thing about it that really struck me at the time, it was the first big arena concert I'd ever been to. And it was the first Bob Dylan concert I'd ever seen. So I went there, and I was very excited. And I went there, and I just remember being in that crowd. I don't know how many people were there, 50,000 maybe? I don't know. A lot of people were there, and we were on the stadium floor, so we were surrounded by all these people. It was a little terrifying for me, and maybe the reason I don't go to a lot of big concerts anyway. But what I remember was I was so used to listening to my Bob Dylan records in my room by myself that I've really felt that I had this kind of personal connection to Bob Dylan. And when I got in that crowd of 50,000 people, or whatever it was, I don't know if it was 50,000, it could have been, but I got in that crowd, and there were some maniacs out there and stuff. Instead of feeling like I was part of something wonderful, I felt like something had been stripped away from me. I felt like, oh, this connection I felt with Bob Dylan, it was kind of stripped away. And I don't know, that's probably not a normal reaction to have, but I've never really liked huge concerts after that. I've seen Paul McCartney, and that was good. But that's my big memory about Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead. Number 8, a shout out to a newer vinyl community channel. So I am going to shout out Dave at M Fidelity. And I think somebody else has done Dave too, but maybe Ed from On My Turntable. But Dave from M Fidelity, I'll link to him down below. He's been commenting, he's been active the last month or so on YouTube. He has some videos out, very interesting, very intelligent guy. I would encourage you to check out Dave at M Fidelity. Number 9, show an album by a Canadian artist. So I think there are tons of great Canadian artists, but I have a preference, a personal favorite Canadian, and that's Neil Young. Neil Young. I wanted to show a Neil Young album I haven't shown before, so I thought I'd show American Stars and Bars. This is an interesting record. I'm not going to say it's a great record. It's not one of my favorites. It's not one I listen to a lot, but it does have some good stuff on here. Neil Young, Canadian artist. Just love him. And then finally, number 10. Happy Birthday, show an album that was released the year you were born. Now I was born in 1962. I'm going to be 63 years old this year. Let that sink in. There are a lot of great albums that came out in 1962. I was looking them up. I don't have any of those albums, but there's some really good ones. But I do have something that was recorded in 1962 that came out later. And that's the Beatles Decca Audition Sessions. And this record is when the Beatles were auditioning for Decca Records. I have it on this crazy clear vinyl. They were auditioning for Decca Records, for a contract with Decca Records on January 1st, 1962. These songs were taken from that audition. And some of these songs, a lot of them were bootlegged for years, but then some came out on the anthology series, and then finally they released an official Beatles Decca Sessions. It's actually a good recording. It doesn't sound like a bootleg. It's recorded well. It's they get a lot of flack for, oh man, how would you like to be the people that turned down the Beatles? If you listen to this album, you can see they were good, but they weren't the Beatles yet. They were not the Beatles yet. I think everything happened for a reason here, because they got turned down, and then of course they met George Martin, and the rest is history. I think everything happened the way it needed to happen for them. But this was originally recorded in 1962, the year I was born. So that is my entry into the contest, Mike. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for sponsoring it. I hope we can still be friends. And please go over and look at Mike's channel, subscribe to him, and do the contest. It's a good one. What I like about it is I only had to pull out like 4 records. And that means I only have to put 4 records away, so I appreciate that. Thanks again, and I hope I win, Mike.